All right, so my third trip, I ended up speaking to someone that I would see all the time, but we never really spoke. Um, and I just so happened to see this person, and we had a discussion, and we were talking about healing, and he was telling me about a shamana of his, and I was telling him about my spiritual advisor. And he told me how his shamana guided a ayahuasca ceremony for him, and he told me he was addicted to meth, cocaine, alcohol. And he said after his ayahuasca trip, he said he came back home and he said he threw everything out cold turkey. He said he even doesn't smoke weed anymore. So it really transformed his life. So I feel like it was divine timing that I ran into him. This is also how I prepare for it sometimes. So I grinded my golden teacher and squeezed lemon in it. I let the lemon sit for about 20 minutes because it kind of cooks it like lemon cooks ceviche. So sit it in there 20 minutes and I brewed myself a tea. And then I just added the mixture of the lemon and the golden teacher into the tea. And then I drank the tea. Okay, so the first thing that happened was, of course, the plants came alive. I went out on my patio and I started seeing kaleidoscopic shapes. People will say they're kaleidoscopic shapes. They're called mandalas or sacred geometries. But I was seeing sacred geometries everywhere. And then I had this wild urge to be nude. It actually happens every time I have a nice, like more than 3.5. I have a wild urge to be naked, and I have this crazy connection to Eve in the garden. I don't want to say Eve in the garden. I will say I have a connection to wanting to be in a garden. Hold on. Hello?
Yes, available for massage?
I'm not available. I'm out of town, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. So yeah, there's a wild urge to be naked. There's a very strong connection to wanting to be in a garden. So most of the times during my trips, I'm completely nude and I have a throw around me. And it really put things into perspective for me why children love like their blankie, because it made me feel secure. I just feel super secure with a little throw or blanket. So as it came on, I went out on my patio and the clouds were changing into different things. So first it was a pregnant woman, and then it was a mother and she had her hand out and there was like a little child. The child was like stepping off of her hands and it was like she was letting her into the world. And then a skull, and then a million skulls, and then all of the clouds came together and formed this huge like anaconda size snake, like something like from the Anaconda movie. And the snake had its mouth open and it was coming right towards me, but there was no fear. It was like the snake was telling me that there's this sacred divine knowledge that it holds. And it just I wasn't afraid of it. It just came right at me, and then right before it got to me, it opened its mouth and it disappeared. So that was interesting. So at this point, I'm not feeling very good. Mind you, after you take the mushrooms, you feel them come on at about 30 to 45 minutes in, maybe an hour, depending on the person. And you may go through something called a purge. So at this point, it was time for me to purge. So I had diarrhea. People either get diarrhea as a form of purge. Some people cry as a form of purging. Some people sweat as a form of purging. And a lot of people will vomit from a form of purging. don't be afraid of the purge. The purge is a good thing. It's like a cleansing. Think about how Muslims will clean their feet before they go in the mosque. Similar concept. It's like you're really cleansing your whole body before you really go into like the spirit world or the spirit aspect. So I end up having diarrhea. I go into the bathroom and take a shower. I was calling on Archangel Sandalphon for help with cleansing, and it felt like the water was just taking away some of the things that didn't belong with me. So I'm naked again. I'm wrapped in my blanket. I went back outside and the clouds were dancing. It was like you could see the vibration of the world or something, but you could see like the clouds were just very happy. I was listening to a playlist. I was listening to a song called Abrete Corazon, and it really just opened up my heart to understanding and love. It's a beautiful song. I'll try to post that in the description box too. And I was just crying listening to this song. I closed my eyes and it felt like I was seeing the creation of man or something. I don't know. I saw an egg, and then the egg split, and it was like the sun was inside. It was like the yolk was the sun, and the white liquid part of the egg came streaming down, and it turned into a river, and there was a boat, and a man was running from the boat like into the world, like into earth. So that was really cool. So I go outside on my rooftop and I see the moon, and the moon is aggressively moving the clouds out of its way. It's like it wanted to make sure that I was connected to it. It honestly, when you are on mushrooms and your consciousness is so elevated, all these higher beings or higher energies, it's like they know that you are consciously elevated. So the moon is like moving the clouds out of the way, and then there was like a burst of lightning that went through the moon. There were like lightning lines that went all throughout the moon, and then boom, I astral project to the moon. So I'm on the moon. The place that I was very grassy and hilly. There was a long black gate and this huge, looked like a castle in the background, and there was a guy about to go through the gate. This guy, the male, he looked kind of like a wizard. He had long white hair tied back in a ponytail. He had a long beard with a ponytail in it. He had on all white, fresh, okay? He had on this long white coat that like came down to his knees, and there was like fur, not fur, but it was like frayed around the trimming of the coat, and then inside of the fray there were these silver lines going throughout it. So I introduced myself to him, and he said something to me. I couldn't remember his name. And we had a quick chat. I don't really remember what it was. I said a couple things to him. He said a couple things to me, and then he turned around and started walking back towards the gate. And I was like, wait, can I come with you? And he was like, looked at me and he goes, you're not ready. And he like shooed me off, and I was right back on earth on my patio. So that was interesting. So I went back inside. I stopped in my vanity room. So something that they say you shouldn't do is look at yourself in the mirror on shrooms, because you may not like what you see, especially if you haven't done the correct shadow work or the correct work on yourself. It's hot. But I was ready. I'm like, I'm ready for whatever I see. So as I'm looking in the mirror, I can see my reflection and the reflection of everything else times like 12. So it was like I was seeing myself 12 of me. It's kind of like how they say the dimensions spiral outward. That's kind of how it was. It was like small, and then another image, and then another image, and then another image, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, like a cone shape. So I'm staring at myself, and I'm thinking like, wow, humans look weird as shit. And I just burst out laughing. My eyes were kind of sinking. And then I'm like, you look like shit. You need to get your skin together. So this is like my shadow self, my insecurities definitely coming out. So the mushrooms told me to start working harder to get my skin together. What was really interesting about this is I felt very foreign in a human body. I felt like most of the time I feel like I'm my physical self trying to constantly stay connected to my higher self. Well, at this point, I was definitely my higher self. And I'm like looking in the mirror and I'm like, this body feels foreign. I'm just like, whoa, like I'm really in this body. And I just burst out laughing. I'm like, I'm in this body, like I'm stuck in this body. So your consciousness is so elevated when you're on mushrooms. So it was just a whoa moment. I also remember I did not like the smell of myself or the human body. It smelled very like metal. It just smelled like metal. And I just remember thinking like, ugh, I smell like a human. So that was my third experience.
Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and go ahead and hit that little notification bell so that you get the alert when I drop new videos. I appreciate my audience and your viewership, and until next time, keep healing.